All right, everybody, we're back for the second week of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. We put our first week predictions out a little early, so we're going to do the second week predictions right now, even though the first episode was only a couple days ago. But we did pretty good, man. Meng Ding. That fight cost me 4 different parlays. I had Jose Delgado in round 2 at plus 450. I had the under 2.5 for Kavanaugh and Ho. And listen, on my podcast, I predicted a decision, but in the back of my head, something was telling me that, like, just because this fight is so heavily expected to go the distance, to bet the under. And what do you know? First round knockout for Kavanaugh. We got Kavanaugh. We got Lopez by finish. We got Delgado by KO. We had submission for Lopez, but still, we got Mansour Abdul Malik by TKO, and the only one that messed us up was Meng Ding. And you know what's crazy? I was a little worried about that because of how many people liked that guy. And whenever somebody is like so heavy on someone, it always kind of wants to take me off of them a little bit. And that's kind of it's my fault because I put him. I didn't just put Meng Ding though. That's what made me mad. I put Meng Ding, I put fight doesn't go, and I put the under 2.5 in 3 different plays. And everything else was green. It was like almost $400 in total on the different parlays, but it is what it is. It had to go the distance. If I would have put the over 1.5, that's plus money. That would have juiced that up a lot. It probably would have been $600-700. But you know, on to next week, and I love these fights this week. There's a couple that I think are kind of gimme fights for certain individuals, but what did I say last week? I thought Rami Hamed was a gimme fight for Meng Ding, and I mean, he pretty much outclassed him. You know, he got hit with a couple shots, but the body shots, the footwork, the movement, the constant clinching from Meng Ding, yeah, I don't know what that's about. But we'll kick it off with the first fight up in the bantamweight division. We've got A1 Combat's Billy Brand taking on Cody Haddon, who I believe has fought in the Hex fighting promotion over in Australia. Yeah, Hex Fight Series, Eternal MMA. I honestly think the first fight is the best fight on the card. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think there's a couple of fights on here, like I said, that are gimme fights for certain prospects who have already been on the Contender Series. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I think this fight's going to be the best fight of the entire night. Billy Brand, this guy is a great kickboxer. He actually went back and forth in a 3-round fight with Peyton Talbot on the regional scene. And Cody Haddon went back and forth in a 3-rounder. I think it was a 3-rounder. It might have been a 5-rounder against Astro Boy Steve Ursig. So these guys have both fought high-level competition. You look at the styles of both guys. Billy Brand is a striker. He's a striker through and through, but he's got wrestling and he's able to use his takedowns. But that is where I think Cody Haddon has the biggest advantage, is in his wrestling, in his takedowns. And, you know, trying to push Billy Brand up against the cage, you know, use his cage wrestling, inside and outside trips, work from the top position. And then once Cody Haddon gets on top, he's very good at control. He's able to either stay in the mount and grapevine the legs, or he'll find a way to work to your back and put in that body triangle. He's looking for submissions right off the bat, but he's also good at kind of staying in his own, you know, staying in his own groove and looking to like loosen you up and, you know, pepper you with some shots in order to open up potential position changes or potential submission finishes. He's mainly a boxer on the feet, but I will say I don't think standing up with a guy like Billy Brand is the best idea in this fight, man. This kid is a dog. I love Billy Brand. I didn't even know anything about this kid until I watched his fight with Peyton Talbot and a couple other fights from A1 Combat. And let me tell you, this kid is a dog. Stance changes, counter spinning elbows as he's backing up, head kicks, you know, multi-shot combinations, low kicks, body kicks, 1-2s down the middle, very loose with his upper trunk movement. He moves his head, he moves his shoulders. He doesn't just stay on the center line. He can get hit with some straight shots, like he's not unhittable, obviously. This is MMA, and Haddon is a good boxer. He kind of fights on the inside when he's striking. It's inside, you know, slipping, body shots up top. If Brand doesn't, you know, keep it at the range that he wants to, if he gets in boxing range with this kid, he might be in trouble because Haddon has good power and he has the wrestling to mix it up. But I'm going to be honest, I really like Billy Brand, dude. I think this kid is legit. I think that he's going to have a great performance here. I do think this fight is going to be competitive. I do think it finishes inside the distance, but there's a possibility that the over 1.5 might be a good look for this fight because I think people are going to expect it to end early, and I think Haddon is tough. Like I said, he went the distance with Steve Erceg, and Erceg arguably could have beat the flyweight champion in the UFC in Alexandre Pantoja, but just from what I've seen, I think Billy Brand is the better striker. I think he has a better ability to control the range, whether it takes place at boxing range, kicking range, or just outside of kicking range. Can work the body, work the legs. Like I said, good counter spinning elbows, good combinations up top. He changes levels on his combinations as well, punctuates his combinations with kicks. This kid is legit. If you have not watched Billy Brand, you're in for a treat this coming Tuesday on the Contender Series. But like I said, man, Haddon is legit. Haddon can use his wrestling. Haddon has good boxing, which is why it would serve Billy Brand to not get pushed up against the fence and to not play too long inside the kicking range. But I think the counter kickboxing, the kicking game, the elbows, and the overall variety in the stand-up game of Billy Brand. I think on the feet, Haddon is more of just a boxer, and I think Brand has better variety and better control and management of the distance. So I'm going to go with Billy Brand. I'm going to go Billy Brand, second round TKO. I think he's going to crack this kid. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's probably towards the end of the second round because I think these guys are going to go for it. They're going to go after each other, and they're really going to put their pedal to the metal. But I think Billy Brand is just a cleaner striker, and I think he has the defensive wrestling to not allow for Haddon to get on top and work his superior jiu-jitsu and ground and pound. So give me Billy Brand, second round TKO. But like I said, this is my favorite fight on the card by far. Up next, we have a fight between the returning fighter from the Contender Series last season, who actually got a victory but wasn't rewarded a contract, in Torres Finy. Nicknamed is the Punisher, and then he's going up against Cam Roaston, who is 8-2. His nickname is Cam Van Dam Roaston. That's a pretty solid nickname, I'm not gonna lie. 8-2 on the side of Roaston and 8-0 on the side of Torres Finy. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. It was very hard to find good tape on Roaston. I saw Roaston get KO'd with ground and pound from the top. It wasn't even because his opponent was a wrestler. He was just able to unload from the top position, and I kind of feel like this fight Finney's just going to be able to get those takedowns. I don't really think it's going to be that difficult for Torres Finy to get on the inside, pick him up, slam him down, and control him once the fight hits the mat. I think Roaston is always going to be live on the feet because this guy is known as a striker more than a grappler. He's had some Muay Thai fights, some kickboxing fights outside of MMA. He has decent combinations. His low kicks are very solid. He really knows how to turn that hip over. He's long, rangy. He's going to be able to use his reach because Finy isn't a really tall guy. He's just a short, muscular, stocky dude who's going to look to take you down and who's going to look to throw overhands. I mean, it's a typical wrestling heavy style. Slip the jab, come over the top with the overhand. If you don't get the overhand, blast double, get to the single leg, lift and dump. I think Torres Finy is just going to be too much for Cam Roaston. I mean, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight. I do think Roaston is live. I think it's Rouston. I'm not sure. Roaston. You can correct me in the comments, but I think Rouston is going to be live anytime this fight's on the feet. But Finy has great power in his hands. I just watched the last fight he had after the Contender Series, where on the Contender Series, he was able to get a rear naked choke in the second round, right under that 1.5 rounds mark, right over the 1.5 round mark. And in his last fight on the regional scene, he just kind of walked forward, took the dude down, and then boom, just banged him with an overhand right and knocked him out cold. But a lot of these guys on the Contender Series, the guys that they're fighting on the regional scene, they do not have good records. Like, there's a few that are on this episode that have fought some decent competition, but I mean, there's some where it's like 2-4, 3-5, 7-10. Like, just the records aren't that great, and that's the one thing you got to worry about the Contender Series, and that's what makes the underdogs live so many times is, they haven't fought the best competition. So even though they might come into the Contender Series as a huge favorite, there's always that chance that they can slip up and get caught because they haven't fought that many guys. But Roaston is going to have the technical ability and the technical advantage on the feet. He's going to be longer, taller, use his reach, use the jab, use the calf kicks, try to counter with knees up the middle when Finy closes the distance. But I think Finy is just too strong. I think he's going to come into this fight just like Bruno Lopez, man. He's on the Contender Series before. He got the job done. He didn't get the contract. I think he's coming in here to get a finish and get a finish early. He might even get a finish on the feet because when you're a taller, longer guy, those overhands over the top can catch you and knock you out. I'm going to go with Torres Finy by a submission, though. I think he's going to clip him on the feet, take him down, ground and pound, and get a rear. We'll go arm triangle this time. He got a rear naked choke last time. I think he pounds him from the mount and then gets an arm triangle finish in the first round. I think this fight's going to be quick. Maybe it goes to round 2. I'm not 100% sure, but give me Torres Finy to get another win on the Contender Series, get an impressive finish via submission, and this time get a contract. So give me Torres Finy, round 1, arm triangle, choke submission. I don't know too much about Rouston, but I tried to find as much tape as I could. But I think Van Dam is not going to get the win here. So give me Torres Finy, first round arm triangle choke submission in this fight, and he'll probably get his UFC contract after this one. For the featured bout of the Contender Series, we've got a battle in the bantamweight division again, and back-to-back fighters who were on the Contender Series last season. We have Romulus taking on Michael Impatto. You've got an 8-2 record for Romulus and a 12-6 record for Michael Impatto. He's gone 2-2 in his last 4 fights. Got the win in his last fight via first round rear naked choke. Lost the fight before that via decision. Prior to that, he got a split decision win. And before that, he got knocked out in the first round. I watched tape on this guy, because you have to respect these fighters going into Contender, because a lot of the times they haven't fought great competition, whether they're the big underdog or the heavy favorite. Romulus, this dude is a much better grappler than he is a striker. His nickname is Are You Not Entertained? Cortavius, Are You Not Entertained? Romulus. Here's the deal. He's 8-2 in his pro career. He's got 5 wins by submission and 2 wins by KO. His last win was a 50-second armbar in the first round over Eric Vo at North Iowa Fights. He lost on the Contender Series against Ramon Taveras. I like Taveras. I picked Taveras as a big underdog in that fight, and I picked him by KO. And, he could have easily got finished, but he was faster, quicker, and slicker on the feet, and once he hurt Romulus, he just put him down. Now, but I said, before that, 2 minutes and 8 seconds into round 1, he got an armbar. Before that, 2 minutes, 29 seconds into round 1, he got an armbar. Before that, rear naked choke in round 1. I think he's going to be able to out-wrestle a guy like Impatto. He's always going to be live to get clipped on the feet because I don't think this guy's striking is that great from an offensive or defensive perspective. But he uses his striking as a means to get to his wrestling, kind of like Torres Finy, but he just doesn't have that power. But he's also a bantamweight, so it makes sense. I think this is a tee-up spot for Romulus. I think he's going to be able to get on the inside. I think he's going to get his takedowns. I think he's going to work from the top. And I think he's going to get a submission in the first round, maybe second round. Impatto is not terrible, but his striking on the feet, although he does have striking, he's not the best striker. He's gotten some submissions. He's not a incompetent grappler, but I don't think he's on the level of grappling that a Romulus is. And I think just like the last fight where we talked about Finy, I think this is a tee-up spot for Romulus. I think this fight is to make him look good. This fight is to give him his finish and get him another UFC contract, just like the Bruno Lopez fight from last week, except he took a little while to get going, but then he eventually hurt him to the body and put him down. I think Romulus is gonna, maybe he gets clipped. There's always a possibility, just like the last fight. I think there's, Impatto has power. He has decent boxing. He could clip Romulus, but I think he's gonna get taken down, get controlled for as long as it takes, and then either get his back taken and get rear naked choked or get hit with an armbar. I think he's going to get submitted. I think he gets submitted in the first round, maybe round 2. I think that there's a possibility that these guys do come out gun shy. This is the biggest opportunity of their life, and they come out gun shy sometimes, so maybe round 2, over 1.5. But I think Romulus is going to out-wrestle Michael Impatto. I think he's going to get him on the ground. I think he's going to submit him, and I think that's really all there is to it. There's always a possibility that Impatto can clip him on the feet, hurt him, rock him, knock him out. Romulus doesn't have the best chin. I know getting hit by Ramon Taveras is no joke, but the minute he got touched, he was kind of done, in that fight, and there's always a possibility that Impatto can knock him out. He's got good power, and if this guy just comes in and completely disrespects him, then anything can happen. But I'm leaning towards the side of Romulus. to get a big win for the reasons we already talked about. I think he gets him to the ground, gets a submission, and gets his UFC contract. So give me Cortavius Romulus, round 1 armbar submission. All right, up next, we've got the fight that I'm probably the least excited to break down. It's in the heavyweight division between, let me make sure I get this name right, Rizvan Kunia taking on Hugo Kunia. Now, Kunia was the LFA heavyweight champion. He ended up winning the belt in his last fight against, let me see. Who was it against? Against Eduardo Neves. He won the belt November 2023. So he hasn't fought for almost a year, but he was able to win that fight in round 2 via arm triangle choke submission after he was pretty much losing most of the fight. But it was competitive. He just wasn't really putting his combinations together. He got out grappled a little bit, if I remember correctly. But then he was able to win some scrambles. He was able to scramble and get on top after getting dominated and then lock up that arm triangle choke submission. Kunia holds a victory over the PFL heavyweight champion in Renan Ferreira. And that is impressive to me. And he didn't just get the win, he won it 30-27. So this guy has good forward pressure, good takedowns, good cage control, good wrestling. He's going to look to take you down, and he's going to look to control you. Now, Kunia was on the Contender Series before. He ended up, I think he won the fight. Did he lose? Did he win? Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, so he won via ground and pound in round 1 against Rizvan Santos. That was back in 2021. So he's back 3 years later now to try to get his contract. And what do we say? When there's fighters who have been on the Contender Series before and they come back, usually they win. Now, this is one where I think the trend might fall off. I think this fight's pretty much 50-50. I really do. So you can kind of pick whoever you want, and I feel like there's a reason as to why they'll win. I think the fighter with better cardio is going to be Hugo Kunia, but I think Kuniev, I keep wanting to say Kizriev. I think Kuniev probably has the better is the stronger fighter up against the cage. I think he's probably going to be able to do what Eduardo Neves was doing to Kunia before he got finished. I think he's probably going to get the takedowns, move forward, land some big shots, control from the top position, and probably win the fight that way. But I would not be surprised if Kunia won. I wouldn't be. He's not terrible. He can go for submissions. He had some good reversals in that fight where he was getting dominated. He's not going to quit on himself. If Kunia wins, it's probably in the later stages of the fight, if he's able to get Kuniev tired. But I kind of feel like Kuniev's going to be able to do what Neves did, but kind of keep up a higher pace than Neves. But, I mean, the first time that this guy was on the Contender Series, he was fat.
He's fat!
He was fat. This time, he looks like he's in much better shape, because from what I've seen in that PFL fight he had, I believe it was in 2022, he kept a pretty high pace and was able to control from the top and reverse pretty well and kind of keep his game plan up for 15 minutes. And at heavyweight, a wrestling game plan for 15 minutes is not that easy to do. And usually the fighter who implements that, if it gets to the third round, they tend to gas. But Kuniev, pushed a higher pace and looked pretty good while doing it. So I think Kuniev's going to win. I think he's going to be too strong for Kunia in the clinch exchanges up against the cage. I think he's going to be too heavy on top, and I think he probably wins by ground and pound or submission. But if the fight stays on the feet, it's anybody's fight. I would give Kunia the striking advantage. I think he's crisper. I think he's cleaner. I think he's going to be looking for uppercuts and feigning the knee, throwing an uppercut, coming over the top with the overhands. I think those are all going to be weapons that Kunia tries to use. Like I said, I like Kunia's striking more than I like Kuniev's, but I do think Kuniev, he looked in way better shape in PFL than he did on the Contender Series the first time he was there. So I think he's taking his conditioning and his cardio serious, and the pace that he pushed against a man who would become the champion in PFL and also knock out the Bellator champion in Ryan Bader. I mean, that's a really solid win. So you never know, because past fights don't really equate to how good you're going to look in future fights, but I think Kuniev gets this done. I think he's going to win by ground and pound. I'm going to go with, I always forget this dude's last name. Hold on. I'm going to go with Rizvan Kuniev to get the job done here against Hugo Kunia. I'm going to go with a second round ground and pound TKO, maybe an arm triangle, maybe a rear naked choke. Inside the distance for Kunia is going to be my pick. I think he's too strong. He's in better shape than the last time we saw him, and I think he's coming in to get the job done. But again, I said this fight's kind of 50-50, so if Kunia was able to pull it out and find a way to win, it wouldn't surprise me because the guy's not that bad. And the win over Neves was very impressive. You know, he's not going to quit on himself, but I think Kunia doesn't really give him a chance to quit on himself because he's going to be able to control the fight for as long as it lasts. So give me Kunia. I'll go first round. Screw it. Let's go Kunia first round, ground and pound TKO. I think he gets the job done. But like I said, this is 50-50. I would kind of stay off of it. Maybe if you're feeling a little risky, play over 1.5 because I feel like it might go to past the midpoint in the second round for some reason. All right, and now we are at the main event for week 2 of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. And this is going to be a banger for as long as it lasts. You've got a battle in the welterweight division, and I do not know how Gustafsson makes welterweight, but you have Pitlick, who comes in with a record of 9-1, the 10th ranked welterweight in Canada, taking on Andreas Gustafsson, who's the number 1 ranked Nordic middleweight, coming back with a record of 10-2. On the side of Gustafsson, you have 9 wins by way of finish, 7 KOs and 2 submissions. On the side of Pitlick, you have a record of, like we said, what was the record? 9-1, but he's got 9 wins by way of knockout. This fight's not going the distance. I mean, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. But what I will say is I think that this fight is going to be close, dude. Like, Pitlick has good striking. His boxing, the ability to work on the inside and rip shots to the body, come back up top. He's got really solid straight punches. And I think the one thing that I think Gustafsson can get caught by are straight punches. Gustafsson is a marauder. We've said that before. The minute the bell rings, this guy's coming forward. He's coming forward. He's in your face. He's throwing 3, 4, 5 punches to push you up against the cage and try to take you down. The management of range is really going to be the biggest weapon for Pitlick in this fight. He's going to want to stay off the cage. He's going to want to keep him just outside of boxing range, keep him at kicking range, not out of boxing range, but just a little bit further out so that he's not super close where he can just bum rush you and take you down. Because Gustafsson wants to get in your face, land big bombs, overhands, uppercuts, 1-2s down the middle, and then change levels, take you down, and beat the living shit out of you once you hit the ground. I mean, that's exactly what this guy's going to do. I think the better technician is Pitlick. I 100% believe that if this was a technical battle, Pitlick's going to win. I mean, he stays on the outside. He puts combinations together well. He's long, rangy. He uses his good straight punches. But one thing I will say is with Andreas Gustafsson, the last fight I watched of his was against Tony Lampinen, where he got a second round ground and pound finish in FCR. Listen to me, this was from June 2023, so it wasn't too long ago. Please go back and watch that fight. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. Go back and watch that fight because it was insanity. Andreas got his nose destroyed, came back, almost got finished, got a takedown. Then at the end of the second round, he just pushes forward and knocks out his opponent with a brutal uppercut right up the middle, drops him and just hurts him. I mean, this fight was balls to the wall, and that's exactly what Gustafsson is. His nickname is Bane, Andreas Bane Gustafsson. Let me tell you something. There's never been a fighter who's lived up to a nickname like Bane more than this dude, because the minute the bell rings, he's coming forward, he's throwing combos, and he's looking to close that distance and take you down and beat your ass when it hits the ground. And guys, I was really leaning Gustafsson, but then the more I looked into Pitlick, I mean, this dude has good striking, good movement. He's probably got the better overall skills, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to compete in the wrestling against Gustafsson, and that's the main aspect of his game. But if Pitlick was able to land big shots and hurt Gustafsson, it wouldn't surprise me. Gustafsson has lost a split decision back in this October of 2020, and then he lost a majority decision against Joelton Luderbach. Luderbach was actually supposed to be in the UFC and fight Shara Bullet Magomedov. 38-10 on the side of Joelton Luderbach. So he's never been finished. He has Andreas Gustafsson, but almost all of his wins come by way of finish. And then on the side of Pitlick, he's got 10 wins. 9 of them come by KO, 9 wins. All 9 of them come by KO. He's lost 1 time by submission against Jake Lindsay by guillotine choke in round 2 back in March of 2019. Now, Jake Lindsay, if we look at his record, he fought a bunch of bare knuckle boxing, did pretty well. Bare knuckle. He lost in FAC to Chance Rencounter, who I want to say had a fight in the UFC or the PFL. Oh, Bellator. Okay, he lost to Andrei Korshkov. All right, yeah. So, listen, I think that when it comes to this fight, the forward pressure, the pace is going to probably just be too much for a guy like Pitlick. But if Pitlick is able to win, it wouldn't shock me because Andreas doesn't have the best defense. He walks forward and he kind of eats punches with his face. And Pitlick has power. 9 KOs out of 9 wins. This guy is coming forward trying to beat your ass. And Pitlick is going to be able to probably line up some counters and land on the chin of Gustafsson. But I feel like the forward pressure and the pace that Gustafsson employs, this guy loves to fight. I'm not saying Pitlick doesn't, but I just think the variety that this guy employs and the pace, it's very hard for other fighters to keep up. And he's durable. He can go through big shots and come out on the other end. If Pitlick wins this fight by knockout, it would not surprise me because Gustafsson is hittable and he might just run into a shot and get finished. But I think Gustafsson's pace, his forward pressure, the cage wrestling, the takedowns, the top pressure, the ground and pound, the submission game, I think it's going to be too much. I'm going to go with Andreas Gustafsson to win in the main event of the Contender Series Week 2. I think he gets it done by second round ground and pound TKO, potentially a submission. I think it makes it out of the first round because I don't think Pitlick's going to go down super quick. But I've seen Gustafsson knock people out in under a minute, so he definitely has the potential to get a knockout very soon in this fight. But I like Gustafsson. I like Bane. Give me Andreas Bane Gustafsson to beat Pat Pitlick via second round ground and pound TKO. But if Pitlick wins this fight, I would be a little surprised because I think Gustafsson is just insane. But he has good striking and his boxing is clean, and Gustafsson doesn't have the best defense. But give me Gustafsson second round ground and pound TKO, and that is going to wrap up my second week of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series predictions for the 2024 season. I'm your host, Double M. I hope you enjoyed the predictions. Let's try to get a clean sweep this week. We almost got it last week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash a downward elbow on the notification bell so you can keep up to date with all future uploads, whether it's mixed martial arts or professional wrestling. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody.